Welcome back. I'm here in Washington, D.C. I'm talking to the most influential voices I can find about how to make the new world-class ATC system happen. And that is something that we need to talk about. But before we do that, a heartfelt thank you to everyone for the incredible support, encouragement on reaching 100,000 YouTube members for this channel. It's been over 6 years and 131 videos to get there. Never thought it would happen. Your viewership, encouragement, engagement have all been instrumental on making it happen. And I thank you very, very much. So one of the things that I'm discovering as we walk through sort of the network for a new world-class ATC system is the basic question of why hasn't the FAA modernized in the last 2 decades? I keep hearing things about, well, you know, it's always a money issue, but how you spend your money is sort of a choice, and they chose not to spend it at all on a modernization platform or even successfully spend it on sustainment. But to me, in talking to people in the workforce, both current, retired, deferred retirement, the workforce has never been asked to adopt to new things, new capabilities, to address new needs. It seems like it's been a choice not to do those things. The reason for the lack of modernization is the lack of leadership taking the workforce, both controllers and technicians, into a new era. Not asking to transition to new things, always making things look, feel, act just like the old things. That's what sustainment has been. And legacy systems having to stay viable for years just so that people don't have to change. This is the failure of modernization. So now, at least the community, the outside of the FAA community, wants a new system. But that question of what has been unsuccessful for 2 decades at least, and it hasn't been asked. And it isn't just the FAA. Every agency has its modernization failures, from the IRS to DoD, and you know, a simple thing like a new fighter trainer at DoD for the Air Force seems like something you could just buy off the shelf, but no, it is actually 10 years behind schedule. So this is kind of a government problem. But in the end, this is where my 2 cents comes in. This is a leadership issue. In the 90s, the policy at the FAA was all about delivering programs to increase capacity and getting rid of antiquated equipment. STARS, free flight, reduced vertical separation minima, even replacing the, you know, what is now very, very old host computer for year 2000 problems, were all the priorities of the administration. And then we transitioned in 2004 to the Air Traffic Organization, a more business environment, to make all that even better. But everything changed. I submit that the policy changed. Delivering and achieving new program status into operations and new capabilities into the system was old policy, and so a new policy became sustainment. Day-to-day operations became the priority, and sustainment became the priority. Now, as we know, that both of those have degraded over time. Sustainment hasn't been sustaining. It hasn't kept up with programs, reference the GAO report. And certainly from an operational standpoint, we have highly visible runway incursion issues and an unfortunate tragedy here at Washington National. We hear terms of the policy being modernization through sustainment, where somehow the systems will evolve to something better through some type of sustainment mechanism, but that just hasn't happened. And so evolution being the operative word. Evolution takes generations to make changes, and that's the status of the current FAA and the National Airspace System. Low-hanging fruit is the only plan, something that might be easy, might be able to get done, but change is barely perceptible. So in order to get a new world-class ATC system, there needs to be a policy change, a policy that expects the delivery of that new ATC system. They need to make that shift in policy. Leaders will have to adopt and follow a new policy. And as leaders, they need to figure out how to get these things done within that 3-year window, or at least put a major dent in it. The new administrator nominee, who I expect to be confirmed anytime now, has a tremendous opportunity to reset the policy of evolution is out and transformation is in. He'll have a 5-year term which covers the gap about making this happen. That will be his legacy. The new administrator has the opportunity to make this policy extremely clear to a very large and highly competent workforce that simply needs to know what direction is appropriate. Otherwise, modernization is generations away. Generations, let that sink in. And the current ATC system will fail us as a nation. So I talked in the last video about that the FAA's forecast showed a near doubling of the passenger traffic by 2044. Well, Boeing, in the Boeing Commercial Aircraft Organization, also releases a forecast, their own forecast, which is for decades has been very accurate. And if you go back to several years ago, I mean, it's still pretty accurate, even though there's been some downturns because of COVID and economic downturns, conflict in the world. But it is pretty spot on. So they also released a forecast up until 2044, which shows that they need 43,600 commercial airplanes over the next 20 years. A huge, huge number. So Boeing also estimates the traffic, the actual passenger traffic forecast is a little over 4% annually, and that actually more than doubles the passenger count by in the next 20 years. The global fleet will more than double to handle that capacity. All this points to a rise in what is needed for air traffic control. All at the same time, our current condition is capped in New York airspace because we don't have the capacity. We have issues with capacity in northern Florida. I mean, these are unacceptable premises even under the current conditions, and it makes it a significant challenge to even think about trying to meet the needs of what Boeing and the FAA both project will be our needs for travel in the future. And I just want to add on that when I think about a new, world-class ATC system, and I think about what the biggest problems are, I mean, there's obviously staffing and how to actually retain, attract a viable workforce and use technology to be able to help you do that, those kinds of things. We need to talk about the weather. 70% of all delays has been the moniker for what is the biggest cause of delay in the NAS for forever, for generations, going backwards. And going forwards, are we just going to leave it as generations that, oh yeah, it's just the weather and we're all stuck? Or are we going to do a better job at all about the weather? No one's talking about it. When you look at a world-class ATC system, you look at the components, you look at the capabilities that are being asked for. None of it has to do with weather. That's all supposed to be handled by the National Weather Service and the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, who handle the weather radars and things like that. But what's out there today? If we want world class, we got to start with what our biggest problems are, other than staffing and failing lines and technology. Once we get past that, are we going to do better? We should do better in the weather department. And when we look around the world about what capabilities are coming with new equipment, Thales, Spire, and the European Satellite Services Provider are developing a new space-based surveillance service for use by air navigation service providers. So satellites will be able to provide position information acceptable for the control of air traffic. This is not unique. There's other companies that do this, particularly Ariane, who's been doing it for years, but they haven't been able to get to the separation standards down where it becomes useful for something like the United States or core Europe. So this is a new push for doing that even better, but it does take new stuff to be able to do that. It's an industry consortium that wants to launch a new satellite service and be operational by 2027, right around the corner. When we think about these, short time frames for a world-class ATC system, launching a whole new set of satellites and achieving that objective, 2027 is a really short time frame too. Everybody is on these accelerated timelines. Thales is an extremely experienced air traffic control service provider. They know what they're getting into, but this end-to-end system is supposed to meet all the latency coverage and standards requirements for aviation authorities to use it for air traffic control. This is a huge deal, and that's what's new. That's what's out there in the marketplace, and we have to get out of our own way to be able to grasp these things and make them our own. So, live from Washington, D.C., thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell, and we'll see you next time. Need a new system? We absolutely need a new system, and we're wicked far behind.